Welcome, everyone. My name is Nina Benoit. I'm the director of Systemity at Brightest, host of the AI Systemity podcast, and keynote speaker on AI and Systemity. So, for first-time listeners, this podcast talks about all things related to artificial intelligence and Systemity, exploring how AI can have a positive impact on our planet and our people, and what potential limitations or risks we need to be aware of. So, today I'm very happy to welcome Philippe Schuler. Philippe is a TEDx speaker, Systemity consultant at Quest, and author of the book The Wise Man and Story of the Plenty, and also a faculty member at the Copenhagen Business School. He spent over a decade working at the intersection of food waste, supply chains, and Systemity, and his work has been crucial to helping organizations and communities understand how food waste connects to our biggest planetary challenges. So, Philippe, thank you so much for joining us on the AI Systemity podcast. It's really a pleasure to have you here and explore together how AI can help us rethink our food systems and tackle the waste crisis we're facing today.
Hello, Nina. Thank you so much for having me and for the lovely intro. Very nice of you. So, pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to that we managed to make this podcast happen. Definitely. So my first question for you, Philippe, is so you've worked across food waste from many different angles across your career. What would you say is one of the biggest lessons you've learned, and how does it shape the work that you're doing now?
So I would say that the main thing that really stood out for me when working in food waste across the supply chain or across those different sectors or those different parts of the supply chain is that it's really not one person's fault. It's really food waste occurs across the supply chain for different reasons, which sometimes can be mitigated, they can be reduced, you can prevent them, but it is causing a lot of challenges for a lot of companies. And I think a lot of them don't want to waste food, but it is because of different scenarios, different challenges that they're having, that they end up wasting a lot of food. And you cannot point fingers at just saying, okay, it's the consumer's fault or it's the supermarket's fault. So it really is a systemic issue. It's really an issue that is across the entire supply chain. And I think what I've really learned from my time working in this space is that collaboration is key. I think there's some amazing solutions, and we'll go into more detail, of course, with when it comes to AI. But there's a lot of other solutions that exist where companies can use them. They can collaborate. They can work with different agencies and organizations to really counteract it. And I think that is really the key for me. It's working together on this issue because ultimately, I think nobody really wants to waste food. Food is something so beautiful, so human, so integral for us as humanity. I don't think anyone who wants it, but it's still happening. So it is key to counteract it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Great insights, and definitely a very complicated issue that is connected to everyone, right? The consumer, the supermarkets, the restaurants, the retailers. It's the whole supply chain.
No, completely. It's you cannot finger point at just one of them. It's really across the entire supply chain. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so your new book, The Wise Man and the Story of Plenty, talks about humanity's disconnection from nature. So how do you see AI as a tool that could help us reconnect with where our food comes from, or do you think it risks deepening that disconnection even more?
No, I think AI, as a lot of other technology, has a lot of potential. I am definitely not one of those who says, "Oh, there's something new coming. We should all be scared." And I think you should always look at technology from both sides of the coin. On the one side, I think it can bring a lot of benefits. First of all, to reduce the amount of food waste, to give us better insights, to better understand what is actually happening. So using, machine learning, Internet of Things, blockchain, all these different technologies that exist, I think they can really help us to create more efficiency and to reduce waste. At the same time, on the other side of the coin, I also believe when we're talking about the connection to nature and when we're talking about connection to humanity, for me, it's very important to always bring back the human element to a technology. I think technology itself cannot solve all our problems. I think it is a tool, and that's the way it should be used. It should not be replacing everything. It should not be something that we only depend on it, because I do feel that you need the human element as well. You need those kind of insights. You need that kind of common sense as well when it comes to human elements, and also these interactions. And I can tell you more stories of how I worked with humans. Well, when I worked with different employees of different organizations as well. For me, it's very important interactions that you have with people as well, and to really understand what their struggles are, their challenges. And I think AI cannot really always replace that. I think you need that human element.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's often case people see AI as a bit as a magic wand that's going to solve all the problems. But
Mhm.
we can agree that's definitely not the case.
No.
And so during your time at Too Good To Go, what would you say worked well, and what would you do differently with the tools available today, including AI? And maybe you can also explain what the company does for listeners who are not yet familiar with it.
Yeah, so I worked at Too Good To Go for 4 years, and Too Good To Go is an application that is now globally. So when I first joined, we were 200 people, and we were only in a few countries in Europe. Now they're in the US, Japan, Australia, US, Canada, all over the place. And it's an application that basically allows people to download an app for free and then connect with cafes, restaurants, supermarkets, hotels in your location, to pick up Too Good To Go bags filled with food that would otherwise have gone to waste. And the beautiful part about it is that it's really a win-win-win. So it's a win for you as a consumer, because you go to the supermarket or to a cafe at the end of the day and pick up all the food that otherwise would have been thrown away, and you get it at 1/3 of the price. So you get, of course, the monetary or the economic value of something that is worth so much more, but you get it at a reduced price because it would otherwise have been thrown away. And then businesses, of course, they gain from it, because wasting food is wasting money. So there's really no interest in you overproducing and constantly throwing it away. So of course they make some revenue from it as well. They get some exposure from it. And of course, the best thing of all is the win for the environment, because wasting food is, wasting energy, wasting water, wasting everything that goes into our food. So it's really the last thing that should happen to our food is throwing it into the bin. So Too Good To Go is really one solution to help us to redistribute some of the food surplus that exists, and not making sure that it doesn't end up into the bin. And to answer your question, I think with Too Good To Go, I think what works so well is its simplicity. It's really how easy it is to make a difference. I think that's the first part. Just download an app and you can go and get food that you otherwise would not have probably found. It's like, some people call it even the Google Maps of food. So you really go on there and you see, okay, wow, there's so many food stores that I've never been aware of. I can go
Mm-hmm.
and save food. I think that's the first part. And the second part is a little bit to what I mentioned earlier. What makes the techs work so well, again, is the human element. Because you
Mm-hmm.
have to go to the cafe and you have to pick up that bag. And that is something that the company always mentioned, that they don't want to change that. There's of course now delivery bags, and there's like these parcels that they send home. But the application in itself is always, you have to go show the app, show like, okay, I want this one, and I've reserved it. I can then come and pick it up. So you really go to the cafe and you look those people in the eye and you kind of feel that
Mm-hmm.
appreciation. And it goes both ways. It's also the employee behind the in the store as well, feeling, well, okay, Nina and Philip are coming, pick this up. I made a difference for them. I make them happy. You have that connection. And for me, it's so important that
Mm-hmm.
we continue having that. It's not all through tech and it's all being delivered left and right, and you don't know where it's coming from. You still have that human element and that human connection. I think that's beautiful. I think that's something that should be kept.
Absolutely. And so a lot of companies are now using AI to optimize their supply chains and reduce waste. What do you think is missing from that conversation and that they're not thinking about enough currently?
Mm, I think um, I do think that they are thinking enough about it. I ultimately think, like I mentioned, is the over reliance on AI, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe the first instance that they might think, oh yeah, I'm gonna pay for this technology, and it's going to resolve all my problems. I think that just doesn't work. It's the same
Mm-hmm.
way as asking a software, well, working with Brightest, for example, you might hear it as well, like, oh, we're going to get this software and it's going to resolve all our problems about carbon emissions or about
Mm-hmm.
all the environmental impact that we have. Well, no, it gives you an assessment, it gives you an idea of what is happening. But in the end of the day, the action comes afterwards, the implementation comes afterwards. And I think that's the way you should look at it with AI as well. So AI can really give suggestions, look at, what are the hotspots, what are the low hanging fruit, what is kind of going on in an operation, where can inefficiencies exist. But then it's really down to you to how to use that technology and make it to its best of its use. And I think that's again where I bring in, the different solutions that exist, thinking about it and reconnecting the dots a little bit. So AI is good in terms of, raising that alarm bell and showing there's clearly something going on. Now it's up to you to take that torch and do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, for me, it's really important that organizations understand that. It's not this magic wand, as you mentioned. It's not like we have AI, we're going to reduce food waste and that's it. Yes, you can reduce it already just with AI, but there's so much more to it. And I think there's so much more that goes into it. And even with my work, what I'm doing as well as a consultant is, there are organizations already have AI, but then I come in as a consultant and really help them to understand, okay, what kind of roadmap can we include in this? What kind of strategy can we bring forward with reducing food waste as well? What are some of the solutions that we can actually implement to reduce it even further? Now that we have this data, now that we have all of this
Mm-hmm.
benchmark or this idea of a baseline, what can we do about it now? And I think that's crucial. You need that second step as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think that AI can be very helpful when it comes to gathering data, analyzing data, providing recommendations, but then the work has to get done by someone for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, exactly.
And so you're teaching the next generation of leaders right now at Copenhagen Business School. What do you wish they understood about food systems that goes beyond what any AI models could teach them?
Yeah, so for me, um, one of the main reasons why I also work with Copenhagen Business School right now as well, of course, they asked me to be part of it, and I'm very humbled that they did that, to really be an external lecturer there as well. But for me, is really because I studied at Copenhagen Business School, I did my master's there, and I have to be very honest with you. When I did my master's there, I felt very stuck. I loved the
Mm,
city, I loved all my friends, but studying there really, it kind of raised a few alarm bells in me because, I was very passionate in terms of, doing something for the planet, thinking about sustainability. And I thought, okay, sustainable supply chains is something I want to go into. And in all the electives and in all of the things that I've worked in Copenhagen Business School, there was maybe one slide that said sustainability.
mhm,
And for me, that was really a shame where I really thought, okay, there's so much more that we need to do here to also bring business schools to a level that also connected to sustainability, that make them understand that sustainability is not just an elective. It needs to be part of the everyday conversation in business schools. And that's also what I really, yeah, want to do, and what I want to give back to that university and all those people coming into that university as well, is to say, well, I'm working on one elective right now, but to really give them the option to say, well, let's learn about business and how it connects with sustainability, how it connects to food systems. And this is where I basically bring, my insights and my kind of experiences working in the business world, and showing to students, that it is possible to be passionate about nature, to be passionate about sustainability, and to make change from within organizations, or to help them just as I do from an outsider and working as a consultant. There is a lot of work to be done to kind of guide them on that trajectory. And, again, a lot of students always ask me as well. AI is a big question always. I know it's always one popping up. So they always ask me, is AI an enabler? Is AI going to be good? Is it going to be bad? And for me, it's what I answered to you as well. I think tech is an amazing tool for us to be able to use. But in the end of the day, I think what is really important is that we grasp the enormity of the issue in hand and really
mhm,
look at it as a system. We can't answer everything just with technology. There's so many other things that need to be aligned, and that we need to work on, and that we need to put our gloves on and to really dig into it. And so for me, it's important that they really understand that whole scenario, and that's why I love doing it as a lecturer as well, and working with students to kind of also give back and to hopefully also change a little bit the whole business school scenario or narrative.
I can imagine it must be a nice feeling. And I also went to business school to do
Yeah,
different ones during my studies. And I had the very same feeling a bit frustrated about the lack of content on Society.
yeah.
So great that you can change that a little bit at Copenhagen Business School.
Mm.
And so if you could use AI to solve one specific problem in food waste right now, what would it be and why?
So for me, I think, well, AI is being used in many different ways already. I think for me, the way I kind of picture it is in three different ways. So you have on the one side, you have AI where a lot of supermarkets are using it to kind of understand past data. So they look at, okay, how many sales have we done over the last week? And let's see how we can forecast going forward. So it really helps them to become more efficient in terms of ordering, what kind of
Mm-hmm.
assortment can we optimize, how do we better manage our inventory, first in, first out. So it really helps them to give that kind of data. So I think there's a lot of things already being done, and there's a lot of amazing companies that exist who are working on that and really trying to increase those efficiencies within supermarkets, particularly. Then on the second spectrum, you have some companies who are using AI to really look at shelf life, and I think this is where I would say I'm excited for what comes next, because
Mm.
working with sensors, looking into how can we make sure to know when food is ripening, what is the right temperature that food needs to travel in, because different food, has different temperatures that are best for them. And very often people don't know that. But if you take down a fruit from a tree, the fruit is still living, it's still
Mm-hmm.
ripening, it's still going on through this whole maturity process, etc. It's not that you take an avocado from a tree and that's exactly the avocado you eat. No, an avocado, you take it down, it has a completely different color, and then when it's shipped all over the world, over that time it's ripening, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of things that we can learn from that as well, to kind of use AI to find out how nature is working in the background and to really become more efficient in that, and to really think, okay, how can we make sure that we really get the food at the right time at the right place? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really interesting. And it's also a project that I'm working on right now, where I'm working with airports, with airlines, in the cool chain, they call it. So cool chain, it's not, yeah, it's a lot of cool people, but it's more because it is actually the cooling mechanism, so cooling food, to actually bring it down to a temperature so that it can be shipped from one place to the next. So imagine
Mm.
blueberries, raspberries, a lot of berries being flown around the world. They cannot be shipped because their ripening process is quite short, but they need the right
Mm.
temperature to go through. And once the temperature goes up and down, that's the worst thing that can happen. It really needs to be very consistent, but you can imagine how difficult that is. If you're bringing, let's give an example with blueberries. You bring it from California. California, it's 35 degrees. You have 35 degrees. Then you bring it down to a warehouse where it's 18. You bring it to a plane where it's 16 or 20, and then it continues. So you have all these different alterations. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the worst thing that can happen to fruits or vegetables. You need
Mm-hmm.
to keep that
Mm-hmm.
stable. So I think AI can play an amazing role here to kind of alert people and say, well, let's use our sensors, let's use all of this to make sure that it stays consistent. So I think that's the second beautiful part where AI plays a role. And the third one is something that I've seen also in the work that I've done with hotels, and that's gaining massive momentum. I think that's where the biggest amount of startups are really happening, I would say. And there's a lot of companies in that, is in terms of waste tracking. So using basically artificial intelligence to find out what food was wasted at certain times within a certain premise.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is that they have a bin, a smart bin, where they have a camera on top of it, and they can, once food goes in there, they can scan, okay, what food was in there, what time was it, how much was it, giving all of that data, those insights to then chefs, to the employees in food and beverages operations, to give them a better idea, okay, how much should we actually serve, which one was popular, which one wasn't, should we reduce the portion sizes, should we rethink our menus? And I think that is quite groundbreaking in many ways, because when I work with hotels, sometimes they have already artificial intelligence to do that, but most of the time, we use Excel. Like I had like sheets like that where they would,
Yeah.
put it on on the weighting machine and everything, and they could put down the weight, and they write it down, and then say, okay, it was that much spaghetti bolognese. Okay, so they write down the amount, and then over time it's quite a
Incredibly
long
inefficient.
process.
Yeah.
There's a lot of human error at times as well. So if you can use technology to fasten up that process and to give them better insights, I think that's beautiful. But here again, what I'm also telling to hotel managers is like artificial intelligence can only bring you that much. Yes, it gives you those insights, but now how do you inspire your employees to make a change? How do you make sure that you give them better training, better skill sets to actually make sure that they use their food in a better way when they're preparing the food? How do you rethink the buffet? How do you involve the consumer so that they stop using so much on their plate? So there's a lot of
Hmm.
consumer behavior and nudging that you can do as well as solutions. And that's what I'm working on. That's what I find really exciting. But using AI as that as kind of a tool to equip me with all the information and all the data that I need. I think that's beautiful. So it's really around those three areas where I see the most amount of development when it comes to AI, and I'm excited for what will come next. But yeah, those are the main three ones.
Definitely a fascinating topic, and I'm also very excited to hear what comes next. So, Philippe, thank you so much for this great conversation and for sharing your perspective on this really relevant issue that we're facing today. So, I really hope that more of these solutions can be implemented and more people can take action. And so to everyone listening, if this episode resonated with you, please like or share it with someone in your network who cares about sustainability, food systems, and the role of AI in solving real-world problems. So make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes, and feel free to connect with Philippe or with me on LinkedIn to continue this conversation. You can also find Philippe's book, The Wise Man and the Story of Plenty, and learn more about his work at philippeschuler.com. Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much,
much.
Nina. Absolute pleasure.
My name is Nina Benoit, and this is the AI Sustainability Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.
Bye bye.